people love to say what they love to say. They love to talk about it. And if I can be a point of interest to them, I don't care what they say, as long as they don't hurt my family or somebody else with it.
She is the sovereign of country music, a global phenomenon, and one of the most treasured artists ever to grace the stage. But beneath the glittering rhinestones and that disarming southern warmth, a different story was being written, a ledger of slights and betrayals, meticulously kept. For decades, she held her tongue. She offered a smile. She seemed to forgive, or so the world believed. But now, at the age of 79, it has become abundantly clear. Dolly Parton never forgot a single name on that list. Through carefully chosen words in interviews, poignant passages in memoirs, and the occasional unguarded comment, the truth has begun to seep out, a history etched in lawsuits and shadowed by betrayal. From the quiet barbs of aspiring starlets to the calculated slights of established legends, Dolly's journey is a tapestry woven with the names of those she once held close, only to be forced to sever the ties. And make no mistake, this isn't the stuff of tabloid gossip or minor squabbles. We are delving into a world of high-stakes litigation, of veiled insults delivered with a smile, and a brand of cold-hearted rejection, so profound that even Dolly Parton's legendary smile could not conceal the wound. Remain with us, because the final name on this list is one that will genuinely, and I mean times truly asterisk, astound you. Number 1. Porter Wagoner. The mentor who became her adversary in a court of law. He was the one who saw the spark. He was the one who fanned it into a flame. And then, he tried to extinguish it with a lawsuit. Porter Wagoner was far more than just Dolly Parton's partner in song. He was the key that unlocked the door to national stardom. In the year 1967, he extended an invitation for her to join Time's The Porter Wagoner Show, asterisk, a stage from which millions of American households would first be captivated by her voice, mesmerized by her presence, and touched by an unmistakable radiant star power. As a pair, they were an unstoppable force, conquering the country television airwaves and the music charts, their names becoming synonymous with the era's most iconic duets. But the brilliant glare of the stage lights concealed a far more turbulent reality behind the curtain. Wagoner was a man of iron will, unyielding in his opinions, and, as time would tell, deeply possessive of the spotlight he had long commanded. And as Dolly's star began to ascend, casting a shadow over his own, a quiet frustration began to fester. She was no longer the apprentice. She was a phenomenon in her own right, and she felt the shift deep in her soul. Dolly yearned for the latitude to explore her own creative instincts, to chase her solo ambitions, to captain her own ship. But when she made the courageous choice to step away from the show in 1974, Porter perceived it not as growth, but as a personal affront. In his eyes, it wasn't a declaration of independence. It was an act of betrayal. And then, the bombshell. In 1979, a full 5 years after she had walked away, Porter sent shockwaves through Nashville and the entire country music establishment, filing a staggering $3 million lawsuit against his former protege. The official charge was breach of contract, but the demand was for a piece of her future, a claim on all her solo earnings. The affair was brutally public, relentlessly messy, and for Dolly, it was nothing short of devastating. Years later, in her 1994 memoir, she would finally voice the emotional toll it took, writing simply, "He was jealous, he was controlling." Yet, in the moment, she did not respond with fury. She responded with art. The song was "I Will Always Love You," and it was never just a hit single. It was her final, poignant, farewell letter to Porter Wagoner. To the world, it was a tender ballad of heartbreak. But encoded within the melody was a quiet, unshakable declaration of her own sovereignty. She was forging her own path, with or without his blessing. That lawsuit came perilously close to shattering her spirit. It cast a long, dark shadow across what should have been one of the most triumphant moments of her career. And while the two would eventually find a path to reconciliation before his passing in 2007, the scars from that painful chapter, for Dolly, never entirely disappeared. Dolly, true to her nature, never aired her grievances in public, but she also never forgot. And just when it seemed that particular storm had passed, another voice, from a world far removed from Nashville, emerged to take a very different kind of aim. Number 2. Jeff Tweedy, the celebrated indie rock luminary who casually dismissed a masterpiece. In 2023, Jeff Tweedy, the frontman of Wilco and a titan in the indie rock scene, found himself in an interview, posed with a seemingly innocuous question: name a song that fails to stir any emotion within you. The segment was designed to be light, informal, an off-the-cuff moment. But his answer sent a palpable tremor through the music world. Without a moment's hesitation, he offered his critique. "It just never connected with me," he stated. The song in question? "I Will Always Love You." The public reaction was immediate and intense, because, as we now know, this was never just a breakup ballad. It was more than a song. It was the ballad, a timeless anthem born from the soul of Dolly Parton and given an immortal voice by Whitney Houston, a melody woven into the very cultural DNA of generations. To dismiss it so lightly, to suggest it was hollow, devoid of feeling, the reaction was seismic. A firestorm of disbelief and outrage ignited across the digital world. Legions of country music purists, pop devotees, and even the most casual listeners rose up as one, fiercely defending a legacy they held sacred. The comment sections became a tapestry of human experience. Stories of first dances, final farewells, and broken hearts pieced back together by Dolly's words. To the world, this felt like more than a critique. It was a profound transgression, and through it all, Dolly's response was a profound silence. No sharp retort, no cryptic post, no veiled rebuttal. She has never needed to trade in the currency of insults to prove her worth. Dolly has always wielded a different kind of power, the kind that doesn't need to raise its voice to be heard. But in the world of legends, silence often speaks with the most thunderous authority, because what happened next was telling. His next project arrived and faded without a sound. No industry buzz, no chart presence, no cultural echo. And in the quiet that followed, the whispers began. Was it merely unfortunate timing, or had he provoked a force he didn't understand? Dolly Parton built an empire by taking the high road, but she has never been above letting karma do the heavy lifting. And this was hardly the first time a shadow had been cast upon her legacy. Long before this moment, there were challenges far closer to home. There were friends whose paths would diverge into rivalry. Number 3, Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou Harris, the supergroup that almost never was. On paper, it was a celestial alignment. 3 iconic voices, 3 living legends, 1 definitive album, or so it seemed. Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris, each a titan in her own universe, coming together in what fans prayed would be a collaboration for the ages. A perfect, seamless harmony of unparalleled talent. Their voices together were alchemy, their individual reputations unimpeachable. And when the first whispers of a joint album escaped the studio, a current of pure electricity surged through the country and folk scenes. But behind the curtain, the harmony was far more elusive. The vision for Trio had existed since the late 1970s, but the stars themselves seemed to refuse to align. Every time they reached for it, a new obstacle would rise. Schedules became impenetrable walls, record labels drew territorial lines in the sand, and beneath the surface, creative tensions began to quietly simmer. Ronstadt, a known perfectionist in the recording booth, pursued flawless takes and pristine production. Emmylou Harris was a force of instinct, a soul steeped in the raw honesty of country tradition. And Dolly, by that time, she was a global phenomenon, a cross-genre superstar navigating blockbuster movie roles, her own solo albums, and a brand that was expanding far beyond the Nashville city limits. True to her nature, Dolly kept the turbulence private, never allowing a hint of frustration to reach the public eye. It was only years later that she offered a rare glimpse into that time, admitting, "We had 3 different careers and 3 different ideas. But we loved singing together." That single sentence revealed everything. It spoke of a deep, mutual respect and a powerful admiration. But it also hinted at the undeniable friction, the inherent limitations. When Trio was finally released in 1987, it was more than worth the wait. The album was a staggering triumph, both critically and commercially. It collected awards and single-handedly revived traditional harmonies for a new generation. And it sent a clear message to the world that women could command the stage with an unmatched elegance and an unyielding strength. Yet, despite the monumental success, the project remained a beautiful, isolated moment. It never evolved into the lasting collaboration fans dreamed of. Follow-ups were slow to materialize. Reunions were precious, but few and far between. It became clear that these three brilliant stars were being pulled in separate directions by the gravity of their own orbits. Their individual legacies called to them, and so, for all its breathtaking vocal unity, Trio was destined to be a brilliant, but fleeting, chapter in a much larger story. Not a permanent arrangement, and just as it seemed Dolly was finally receiving her long-overdue acclaim, another voice more powerful, younger, and with a global reach would lay claim to one of her most profound works. Number 4. Whitney Houston. In a twist of fate, a song she wrote, "I Will Always Love You," would become one of the most monumental records of all time, casting a shadow that nearly eclipsed its creator. This was thanks to Whitney Houston's soul-shattering, emotionally raw performance in The Bodyguard. Her version didn't just break records, it obliterated them, reigning supreme on charts across the planet and introducing the ballad to an entirely new generation. It became more than a song, it was a cultural touchstone, etched forever into the fabric of cinema, advertising, and countless tribute performances. But as the world's gaze fixed upon Whitney, a strange and quiet rewriting of history began to unfold. For a time, the world, in its adoration, began to forget the song's true architect. Murmurs echoed through the hushed corridors of the music business. Quiet speculation mounted. Was Dolly being erased from her own narrative? Was she silently watching as the spotlight moved on? But if a storm of resentment brewed within, its surface remained perfectly, placidly calm. When pressed about her feelings on the cover, she answered with her trademark magnanimity, "I cried when I heard it, but I didn't cry because of the money. I cried because it was rendered with such breathtaking beauty." That said, Dolly's heart is matched only by her intellect. She retained the publishing rights, and when a producer once made an offer to purchase those rights for the film, she offered a firm, yet gracious, refusal. Instead, she amassed millions in royalties, later revealing she invested that money into a commercial center in the heart of Nashville. She played the long game, on her own terms, a quiet, strategic victory, untainted by a single drop of bitterness. And yet, even family can introduce its own unique tensions. And when your own goddaughter transforms into one of the most incendiary stars in pop music, you're bound to have a few carefully chosen words. Number 5. Miley Cyrus, the goddaughter she allowed to find her own way. Miley Cyrus was always destined to be a firebrand, with her wild transformations, defiant performances, and a career that detonated far beyond the wholesome confines of Hannah Montana. She didn't just leave her Disney past behind, she set it ablaze. From controversial VMA appearances to provocative visual statements, Miley's metamorphosis was a public spectacle, anything but quiet. And through it all, the world, from devoted fans to ravenous tabloids, turned its eyes to one person, asking a single, burning question. What did her godmother, Dolly Parton, truly think? Some whispered that Dolly must have been privately appalled, that she surely disapproved of the antics, the headlines, and the seismic shift from beloved child star to cultural lightning rod. But Dolly, ever the master of diplomacy and restraint, refused to add fuel to the inferno. "I've told her things that I think are valuable," she stated in a 2023 interview, "but I have to let her be her own self." It was the quintessential Dolly response, a delicate balance of support and unspoken boundaries. There was no public condemnation, no harsh rebuke, just gentle guidance, and a hint, perhaps, of private concern veiled between the public words. Dolly continued to stand by Miley, even when it was neither popular nor easy. She lauded her immense talent, her ferocious independence, and her courage, even if the world wasn't always prepared for it. And if there were ever difficult, heart-to-heart conversations, those remained where they belonged, behind closed doors. But not every challenge comes from family, and not every critic speaks from the shadows. Years ago, during a roundtable discussion, a comment was made that Dolly would never forget. Number 6. The younger star who allegedly called her irrelevant, a rumor, never proven, that took root in the early 2010s during a televised industry panel. An up-and-coming country artist, young, confident, and brimming with the unchecked swagger of a new generation, allegedly made a remark that sent a sudden chill through the room. She hasn't mattered to country radio in 20 years. The moment was fleeting, a casual dismissal, but eyewitnesses recall a silence so absolute it felt heavier than any sound. Not a single voice rose to challenge him. Not one soul stirred to defend her. A tension, thick and suffocating, lingered like smoke in a sealed room. And Dolly, ever the consummate professional, offered no public comment. There were no scathing interviews, no pointed accusations. But her answer would come, months later, delivered not with fire, but with the cold precision of a surgeon's blade. The very same artist extended an invitation, a duet, on the grand stage of his national tour, under the glare of stadium lights and before a sea of sold-out arenas. With the cameras poised and the world waiting, Dolly's answer was a simple, yet powerful, no. And from the inner sanctum of her camp, a message began to seep out, its meaning impossible to misinterpret. The question whispered through Nashville was devastatingly simple. Why share a microphone with a man who considers you a relic? To this day, there is no official record, no on-camera denial, yet the story endures, a phantom of the digital age, echoing in the hushed corners of internet forums and resurfacing in cryptic interviews, a piece of folklore for those who truly follow the music. It's a stark reminder, Dolly Parton does not forget, for when she chooses silence, it is not an absence of words, but a carefully crafted weapon, a declaration. And if the whispers hold true, it suggests that Dolly's silence can resonate with more force, more fury, than any ballad she has ever penned. Dolly Parton may appear to be a creature of rhinestones and radiant charm, but beneath that glittering facade lies a spine of unyielding steel. For decades, she gifted the world her grace, her wit, her boundless heart. But now, the stories of her silent battles are beginning to surface, a testament to the truth that some wounds leave scars that time cannot erase. Some melodies never fade, and some legends never forget. Of all the shadows we've explored, which one lingers with you the most? Let your voice be heard in the comments. And if you wish to journey deeper into the untold histories of country music's icons, like, subscribe, and ring that bell for future revelation. Because believe us when we say, this is not the last secret Dolly has been holding close.